Now I want to go and show you as a developer, okay, here's what I did. I said, all right, you know what? I want to take this ProBiotein powder and I want to assess it. I want to put it through the paces on the bench. So I've got several like coffee roasteries who have a quick bread kind of handheld breakfast item type menu. And I thought, all right, let's see if we can start people's mornings off with a prebiotic kick. So I took, you know, again, the usual suspects of what you would see in a quick bread case in a morning pastry repertoire. And I tried different percentages of the ProBiotein powder. And what I came up with was about a 2%. And 2% ProBiotein powder gives, well, you know what it really does? It really brings an umami and earthy character to it. So if you think of quick breads that are like a whole wheat scone that would have dried cranberries in it or something like that, that is the type of quick bread that would really benefit from the flavor pairing as well as the nutrition from the ProBiotein. Okay, so then I said, all right, let's look at some commercial yeast breads. Let's look at things that, and then in my opinion, because I was noticing umami in these products, I said, you know what? I want to address things that have a large surface area compared to interior. So I looked at things like bagels and challah with all the braidings and things like that, because the more crust you have, the more Maillard reaction, the more potential for umami to develop in those crust flavors. And so again, I arrived at about a 2, just a little bit more % of ProBiotein in these products. So now I make prebiotic bagels and kids love them. So anyway, now let's talk about, all right, how can you as a baker say, okay, let's take this prebiotic idea. How can I develop a product that's going to maximize this? The first thing you need a baker's percentage. You've got to track every iteration that you make. 1A, 2A, 2AX, 2AY. You have to track them all. And you need one baker's percent template in order to do that. There are many out there, and you know, pick the one that you want. I like the one from the Bread Bakers Guild. I like it. I've used it. I work with them. I know several people on the guild who help bring that together, and it works for me. The thing I have, or really it's a caveat, a baker's percent template has 2 perspectives. One, it gives you a broad overall perspective. And you can look at that and you can say, okay, this bread has this much water, has this much flour, it has this much salt. And you can use that in your inventory management, in your ordering pars, etc. It helps you understand the throughput of things on the floor, etc. And that's a very managerial, open look. When you're a developer, when you're working on the bench, that outlook creates a lot of unnecessary noise for you because you don't necessarily concern yourself what the overall hydration of the dough is. That comes later. What you're concerned with is, what is the hydration of each one of these systems that I have? The hydration of the main dough, the hydration of the levain, the hydration of the prebiotic soaker. What are all of these? Because those have to be made workable and reliable before they're put together into a main dough. My number 1 rule, don't worry about the water. I think I just talked about that. So I'm just going to skip on this one and go to the next one. Okay. The next thing you want when you're doing development work is you want a benchmark. You want something that you know intrinsically, the cells in your microbiome know this bread because they've seen it in all kinds of formats in all kinds of weather and situations, with more flour, too much flour, not enough starter. And so you know already how it's going to respond. For me, that is my pan au levain. It's a basic sourdough system, but it's something that for me, it's like riding a bike. So whenever I develop something, I go right to that. Here is an overview of what that pan au levain system looks like for me. I take a starter, I make a basic levain or a first build, and then that goes down into my main dough. So I have these numbers up here just as guidelines. The actual formula that I have for this prebiotic bread, that's available in the archive on the Bread Symposium website. So I have this up here just so you can see, okay, this is the strategy I'm working with. I got a starter, I got my levain, and then I got my main dough. So I've got, what do I got? I got the baker's percentage template, I got my Benchwork. The last thing you need when you're developing, you need a goalpost. You need something. This is my target. Here's what I'm looking for. And I thought, well, gee, how much R&D went into these microbiome bars? So I thought, let's just take these and look on the back and let's see what they use for their prebiotic soaker. Let's see what kind of prebiotic fibers they get in there, et cetera, et cetera. And then also, I have something with flavor, aroma, and texture that I can chew. Now, it's certainly not a bread, but I can get the same sort of idea of what flavor profile I want in my bread by using this. And every time I do a new iteration of what I'm testing, I can see if I'm getting closer to this or farther away. So those are the three things that you need. Well, you know what also helps you? Fresh grinding your grains right to order. And the reason that is because most of the prebiotic fiber is in the bran and the aleurone layer of the grain. And when you grind these directly into fermentation, directly into your levain, you are maximizing how much of the flavor molecules, the enzymes, the butyric acid, all of those valuable nutrients, you are maximizing those. You're not letting them sit around and oxidize. So this is a shout out to Mock Mill. And this is, I mean, really, literally, I don't bake bread without it. So, so there's that. Now, here's what I did for a prebiotic soaker. Okay, I said, okay, we need a stick in the sand. And how will that be? So I said, you know what? I'm going to take grains and seeds, a combination, at 30% of my flour in the main dough. So that's how I arrived at that number. You can see my grain and seed blend over here. And again, I just took those ingredients right off the back of the microbiome bar because they already work. So I've got my prebiotic soaker. And the one thing I don't have up there is that I ferment that at room temperature, at ambient temperature overnight. So I go about 16 hours. So now I've got my pan au levain Benchmark, and now I've got my whole grain prebiotic soaker. So now I'm putting those together. So you can see in the lower left corner how that prebiotic soaker just takes its role and comes into the main dough and plays its part there. And again, you can see that the hydration of my main dough, that 53%, I know sounds low, but that is independent of how much water the soaker's bringing in. It's just a question of how much water, 240, I'm adding to my flour, 455, because I don't want that water to be a wild card once I have fermented all of these things overnight.